morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this very beautiful day here in Brisbane. 19 degrees, getting cooler a little bit, but it's mostly sunny today. A bit of a cloud hanging around at this point in time, but the prediction is for mostly sunny. So there you are, up to date on Australian Indian Radio as we move on up to the Anzac Day parade. And how was your Anzac Day? Well, we attended the dawn service as we do every year, and that was quite moving. It's wonderful to see, even with the little bit of rain the time of the morning, there were so many people at Anzac Square who came along for the dawn service. Of course, the governor was there, the police commissioner was there, the premier was there, Lord Mayor was there, so everyone was there. It's wonderful to see the proceedings go, and the main thing is, how people stand in solidarity. So many people gathered to remember them. Let's see how it turned out worldwide.
Haunting greetings as the sun rose in Gallipoli. A chilly morning for more than 1,500 travellers who came to pay their respects to the Anzacs.
At this time, 108 years ago, approximately 80,000 soldiers were crowded aboard ships of an invasion fleet, ready to undertake the largest amphibious landing in military history at that time.
At dawn, 16,000 Australians and New Zealand troops landed at Gallipoli. Most had no experience of war. By the next morning, 2,000 of them had been killed or wounded.
The young Australian men who landed on these shores in the cold, dark morning of April 25, 1915 could never have known how enduring their legacy would be more than a century later.
You look at the demographic and the people that are here. It's a shared experience among young and old.
The young people are here that don't have any family stories, but they're still here. They go, no, it's just something we have to do because we're Aussies.
Prince William led commemorations in London. In France, they remembered Australian bravery as the diggers drove the Germans out of the village of Villers-Bretonneux in 1918.
The 13th and 15th Australian Brigades had earlier fought to liberate this town, and they achieved a famous victory, but at a terrible cost, with 1,500 Australian casualties on one day alone.
Remembering all those who lost their lives and honouring the Anzac legend that lives on. Tom Joyner, ABC News, Gallipoli.
108 years ago, and 108 years later, we're remembering that, lest we forget, as they said, that they will not grow old, they will not die, they will always remain in our memories, and with the going down of the sun, we will remember them, lest we forget. So, it is so good to see that so many commemorative events taking part, not only here in Australia, worldwide as well, which shows that. Well, right now, let's go on to the next news, which is about RBA, and in the wake of the rapid circumstances around that, this is a major shake-up taking place.
The nation's top banker with a rare concession.
The current oversight arrangements of me as the Governor for managing the bank fall short of contemporary standards.
The Reserve Bank's response to the COVID-19 pandemic and the inflation crisis since coming under significant scrutiny.
This review that I'm releasing today is not about taking shots at anyone.
The RBA's decision-making powers will be split across two boards, one focused on governance, the other on monetary policy.
The type of people that you want to help the Governor come to a concluded view on interest rates might not be exactly the same kind of people that you want to run the bank.
The Monetary Policy Board will be made up of the RBA Governor, their Deputy, the Treasury Secretary and 6 others from outside the bank, aimed at ensuring more diverse economic views around the table. The current 11 meetings a year will be wound back to 8, allowing more time for the impact of their decisions to filter through the economy. After each meeting, the breakdown of how members voted without names attached will be published, and the Governor will front the media to explain the board's call.
Will you can communicate too little, but you can also communicate too much.
The current Communicator-in-Chief's term expires in September.
If the government would like me to stay, then I'm happy to stay.
That appointment would be considered closer to the middle of the year.
Jim Chalmers is prepared to make some appointments now, and they go to the heart of what the review is calling for. One of two new board members is Ian Ross, a former president of the Fair Work Commission and former assistant secretary of the ACTU, who the Treasurer argues is well placed to reflect the interests of workers. Other changes will need to go through Parliament, including scrapping the government's power to veto RBA decisions, which has never been used.
Our goal here is to make this as bipartisan as possible.
Despite the criticism of his organisation, a simple pitch.
We don't always get it right, but we always try to get it right.
Admirable, if not always understood. Matthew Doran, ABC News, Canberra.
This review is clear. The Reserve Bank's done a good job over the decades, but dropped the ball coming out of COVID lockdowns. It misjudged the inflation shock, suggested without enough caveats that rates wouldn't rise until 2024, and was then too slow to pivot as prices took off. Philip Lowe admits mistakes were made, but he has a problem accepting what the review identifies as the main cause, a lack of expertise and robust debate around his board table. The review notes in a damning revelation, some current and former board members see their role as simply being a pub test. The bottom line, the governor faces little pushback. Now, Philip Lowe disagrees strongly, and this is a fundamental difference of opinion. He accepts the recommendations and has cooperated with what must have been an uncomfortable process. But Philip Lowe downplays the reforms as mere improvements at the margin. The Treasurer will ultimately decide whether Dr Lowe really gets what the problem is and whether he's best placed to lead the reshaping of the Reserve Bank into a second term.
So there you go, some decisions to be made there. Treasurer's got a tough job there as well, trying to reshuffle all these appointments. Well, ladies and gentlemen, right now, let's go to the PBS shake-up, which will allow Australians to purchase more medicine. And I think this is good news.
Millions of Australians will be able to buy 60 days' worth of medicine through a single prescription under a major shake-up of the Pharmaceutical Benefits Scheme. The federal government will double the amount of medicine some people can collect with each script from 1 to 2 months, meaning patients will pay less and need fewer visits to the GP.
The changes affecting 320 medicines on the PBS will be introduced from September. The Pharmacy Guild isn't happy with the announcement, saying it could cause supply shortages. Let's go straight to political reporter Tom Lowry at Parliament House. Tom, good morning. So talk us through these changes.
Yeah, good morning, Michael. This is really the first big new budget measure we've seen targeting the cost of living, and it's going after the costs of medicine. So from September 1, doctors will be able to issue essentially double scripts for 320 medicines currently on the PBS, covering 2 months' worth of supply rather than one. Now, most of these medicines are going to cover chronic illnesses, things like diabetes and heart disease. So if this is something you take every day over the course of a year, this is going to essentially halve that cost from $360 down to $180. Now, doctors have been calling for this, GPs are warmly welcoming it, but pharmacists, on the other hand, are not. They're saying this is going to damage their business and cause supply issues. They've been campaigning against it over the past few days since the first sort of whispers of this started to emerge late last week. The coalition, too, seems fairly sympathetic with those concerns as well, but you'd have to think many patients are probably going to warmly welcome it.
Tom Lowry at Parliament House, thank you so much. So a very big issue there, Madeline. The Pharmacy Guild is already pushing back, citing supply shortages, and also claiming, and it's a very big claim, that allowing people to get 2 months' worth of medicines on a single prescription could, in the Guild's view, cause overdoses.
That's right. They're very concerned about this. The supply issue is the main one that they're particularly coming down on at the moment, and certainly we do know that people have already warned of some issues with supply in some in pharmaceuticals anyway.
Well, I think I agree with that. If you go to a GP once and they'll give you a script for 2 months, but the supply should be restricted, that, if you go to the pharmacy, you collect one and you can go again and get some, but you don't have to go to a GP to get another script. That would save time, cost, and, a lot of heartache for many people, because sometimes people run out of medicine. which causes problem, but they can't get to a GP to get their script once more. So a script which will allow for 2 months supply is a welcome move, but the 2 months supply should not be dispensed at that one point in time. That should be dispensed after the first lot has finished. That's the way I see it might work. Well, we don't have the daily India reports coming in as of yet, but the last two notes, we are going to talk about India. First of all, let's take a look at what's happening with India's air travel.
It's one of the biggest purchases in aviation history. 470 new aircraft ordered from Boeing and Airbus to give Air India a major revamp.
Enjoy Air India Boeing 787 Dreamliner. Amazing feel, amazing features.
The deal includes 400 short-haul planes and 70 long-haul, with 370 more aircraft on option. It's going to cost Air India over $70 billion.
Well, I think it's really the story of India, already one of the top 5 aviation markets in the world. Very strong GDP growth, over 6% this year, and increasingly a core part of international supply chains. From an aviation perspective, though, it has not been particularly well served by homegrown airlines.
The deal has been hailed by world leaders.
मैं एयर इंडिया और एयरबस को इस लैंडमार्क एग्रीमेंट के लिए बहुत-बहुत बधाई और शुभकामनाएं देता हूं.
This means that India has a serious focus in the Indo-Pacific region, specifically on Asia, because it will be operating these 400 single oil planes in this region, and 70 planes will be for the far away region such as United States, Canada, Latin America, Africa, Europe.
And comes as India overtakes China as the world's most populous country and hopes to emerge as a powerful player on the global stage.
India currently wants to be a global power. Now it is the 5th largest economy in the world, but it aims for 3rd biggest economy after China and the United States. But currently its fleet is outdated. So to emerge as a big power, it has to demonstrate its connectivity with the world, as more specifically in the Indo-Pacific region.
Buying a fleet of aircraft now gives it the opportunity to go through an incredible refresh. A lot of those ageing aircraft will be phased out as these aircraft come online.
Aviation experts say it will take about 10 years for the whole new fleet to be delivered, but the CEO says the first delivery is just around the corner.
Well, the first of the new aircraft comes in July of this year, just a couple of months away. That's a fleet of narrow-body aircraft. The first wide-body aircraft, an Airbus A350, commenced from about September of this year.
For years, the homegrown airline Air India has struggled to compete, losing customers to the Gulf carriers and other Asian airlines. And direct flights to India are reportedly hard to find.
So on its western flank, there are 3 major airlines: Emirates, Qatar and Etihad. They are taking most of Indian passengers. Similar are in its eastern flank, there are 3 major airlines, that is Singapore, Thai and Malaysian airlines. So now India has to attract the passengers that are being taken by other airlines. India has a 32 million strong diaspora, and in Air India not being able to provide them the direct flights, so this diaspora has to use the flights from other countries.
India is a very interesting aviation market. It ought to be one of the world's strongest, most vibrant and important aviation markets, but it has for many years fallen behind.
The airline was nationalised in the 1950s under a socialist-leading government. Once a national icon, its reputation was tarnished over the years.
Under the government operations, it became more bureaucratic, and it started collapsing under its own weight. And by 2007, the government of India put a red line for this. On an average, it had double the number of staff from the global average. And also there was sort of that there are so many seats have to be fixed for the government officials, whether at last moment these are filled or not.
In 2021, the airline was privatised. and the new owner Tata Group, India's major industrial conglomerate, is eager to renew its reputation and to make it a world-class airline.
In the 1960s and 70s, Air India was regarded as one of the best airlines in the world. International service, world-class standards, and although the last few decades haven't quite been so kind, we are very much focused on restoring a place at the very, very pinnacle of world aviation, and this order is clearly part and parcel of getting there.
Which aligns with the Indian government's interest as a rising power in the Indo-Pacific.
India being part of expanding in the Indo-Pacific region, mainly member of the quadrilateral security dialogue. So it's feeling its presence, and that presence is also being linked through its diaspora, Indian origin people living in those countries. So it wants to connect, and that connection cannot be through the security or through the power, but it is using the soft power. India wants to connect itself with the Western world, and not only connect, wants to develop interdependency.
There's a very, very strong push for the Indian economy to be increasingly connected internationally.
It's thought the ambitious deal will generate jobs, trade and tourism, and bring benefits in travel safety and the environment too.
Indian Railways doesn't have the world's best safety record, it's fair to say. It's much, much safer to fly, and certainly than to drive. These new aircraft are significantly better in terms of how much fuel they use, or more to the point, how little fuel they use, and they are significantly more environmentally sound, which is already very positive for the Indian aviation market and for the Indian environment more generally. They emit 20-30% less or fewer emissions than the aircraft they'll be replacing. That is a really significant improvement.
Said that it was easier to fly in India than to drive. Yeah, for him it would be very hard. And as for many other foreigners or Westerners going to India, driving or even being in traffic could be challenging. Well, from the air travel, like global sari. So sari is taking the globe by world. How can we use saris in our own storytelling?
Should I even answer that question? I have over 150 saris. It's what's called Kashmiri embroidery.
It's very subtle, very appropriate for a day wear and an evening wear.
The girls and the women stopped wearing sari, and a large part of that was it was not considered cool to wear a sari. But I'm so glad now that it is coming back, and it is becoming cool to wear saris again.
This sari is very special to me, because this is my mum's sari.
My mum, my grandmother, my aunties, everybody just wore saris day in, day out. My collection is not very big, but each and every sari is a curated piece.
In my imagination, this mountain need to kind of have a big collection of saris, at least 1,000 of them, but I don't have space in my wardrobe. Each sari, it has a story. It's like a snapshot of special memories, events and people.
So the sari I'm wearing is my mom's sari. It's a cotton sari with a lot of print work done on it. I have no clue on when she got it and where she got it. I actually inherited it when she passed away in November, so it's a very pretty special sari for me.
So the stories, they actually add flesh to the sari, and I think it adds meaning to when I wear a sari, to know that yes, there is a story behind this sari that I'm wearing today.
The word sari comes from the Sanskrit word that means a strip of cloth.
As far as I know, saris have been worn in India for eons.
It dates back to the times of the Indus Valley civilization.
Way before Alexander the Great invaded India, even before the Mughals invaded India.
Saris obviously have revolutionized the way we live, the way we drape, the way we present, and the way we interact in our social communities.
I have been wearing saris since I was a teenager. The first sari I ever got, which was truly mine, was my wedding sari, which was 24 years ago. And that was the first sari I got.
It is very traditional when a girl gets married that the in-laws and your parents give a set of saris, a set of clothes. So I got around 10 saris from my mother-in-law and 10 saris from my mum.
I treasure it a lot because it was a gift and a symbol of the new life I was going to be, I was going to have. So that's the first sari I had.
I remember vividly the color of the sari was like a sea green color, and that was a special day for me. I was getting graduated. I can wear this masterpiece any time in my life, on any occasion.
I do have one sari which is very precious to me, which is from my grandmother. It is in tatters, literally, because silk saris, you know, they actually degenerate over a period of time. But I still have kept it. And I've kept it just to show to, if my son ever gets married, to show to his wife or his partner, say, well, this is the sari that belongs to your ancestors.
The saris have also sort of grown and modernized in terms of the fabric, in terms of the weaves, in terms of the choices of the colors and the work that is being done, depending on the type of sari that I wear. I feel that the sari has a profound effect on bringing a different personality in me. I've noticed that the different colors mean or give me a real profound feeling of strength, resilience, or empowerment.
And a wonderful report there, and I couldn't agree more. Such elegant clothing, the sari, and it is getting back to be cool, and it's getting again fashionable, which is wonderful to see. Well, ladies and gentlemen, right now, let's look at some of the functions and events taking place in Brisbane. So there you are, ladies and gentlemen, up to date on Australian Indian Radio, and it was wonderful to have your company back after the Anzac Day holiday, and there's so much happening out there in Brisbane. But don't forget, The Skilled Migration Forum is on tonight. You can check on our website and our Facebook posting. If you want to come, all you need to do is register and come. Refreshments will be served there as well. Entry is free of charge. There's so many pathways now in the skilled migration area that the Home Affairs is putting on in this seminar tonight to find out what pathways might suit you best. So I would love to see you all there tonight. Well, ladies and gentlemen, until tomorrow, it's goodbye.